Bet on Bears fans, another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. And we got a great Chicago Bear in the building. And I'm not just talking about Jason McKie in this month. J-Mac, who we got, baby?
Yeah, very special guest, man. We got a former first-round draft pick of your Chicago Bears, three-time Pro Bowler. You can also see him with CBS Sports doing analytical work. He's also hosting his own podcast called Pushing the Pile. Want to welcome the great Kyle Long to the Chicago Bears podcast. Kyle, how you doing, brother?
I'm so happy to be in here and seeing that 3-7 in that Chicago Bears font behind you makes me feel right at home. Pat, you and I got to cross paths a few weeks ago at the joint practices. That was cool. Obviously, since I've been in town, there's some new faces in the media and some faces that have been there that just got into bigger spots and getting the shine that they deserve. So good to see you, Pat, and J-Mac, as always, a pleasure.
Kyle,
we appreciate you, man.
to have you on. Very excited to have you on. And listen, let's start here. We got to start with the biggest news at hand. I mean, we can go into everything that we want to hear about this Bears season from Kyle on, but
Taylor
Kyle,
Swift.
Yes, that is exactly where I was going, Kyle. Taylor Swift engaged. What are your thoughts? No, Micah Parsons almost as equal.
Wait, it's worse than that? There's more news and it's worse? Oh.
Micah Parsons is now in the North, and Bears fans are losing their minds left and right. Kyle, I want to get your thoughts on what does having a presence like that in the division feel like as a player in the locker room? And then do you think that there should be a little bit of a, yes, that's a big piece, but let's dial it back a little bit. The world is not ending. We're not going 0-17 here.
First and foremost, I would say you should panic a little bit because Micah Parsons is an incredible football player. And you take a look around the NFC North, and there's only one team without an elite pass rusher. And consider that challenge to the group that we have, the guys that have been broken off, rightfully so, based on their prior performance, but we got to see it together. If they can get home, we're not going to forget about number 11 up there, but it'll help with the amnesia if we can have guys that get home. Look, and for the Dallas Cowboys, you got to think Jerry Jones was trying to pull the gotcha. And, I think back, and I was talking to my dad about this, and Jason, you'll be able to speak to this. Jimmy Johnson traded away Herschel Walker for 3 first-round picks. That was a gotcha moment where those picks or whatever the trade turned into 3 Super Bowls. It's like that old George W. Bush quote. He can't figure it out. 3 Super Bowls is what Jimmy Johnson got from the gotcha moment. I think our guy Jerry was trying to pull his own signature trademark move there, and it just ended up not happening. And you can just hear him talking about the way those picks are going to pay dividends. I don't think he understands that it's going to be a number 30 pick or a number 29 pick, which in essence is a second rounder. So you got 2 twos for Micah Parsons and a guy who hasn't been himself in a few years because of health and because of age and because football's hard. Look, Bears fans shouldn't be mad at Ryan Poles, though. There are a lot of holes in the dam that he's trying to put his fingers in, and all the people in that building are trying to figure out. And I'm not quite sure that going and giving Micah Parsons the deal that he was given would have been beneficial for our future, because let's be honest, I don't think this team as it stands today is a team that's going to go win a Super Bowl this year. But what I think this team will do is prove to us that they're tough, they're well coached, and they've got talent, and we're still a few players away. And we have to trust in this staff, particularly guys like Ben Johnson, who I feel has a bigger voice than we would imagine upstairs. Mm-hmm. Have some say on some guys that he think will be fits for his team. And then we can have that conversation. My point is Micah Parsons ain't going to be the reason that you go to the Super Bowl this year if you're the Bears. For the Packers, it feels like a Super Bowl move. It feels like that's what's happening. And the issue with the Packers, in my opinion, was they don't have guys who can get after the rusher or the quarterback. They got it now.
Yeah, I want to touch on that a little more. We're talking about Micah Parsons in the division, but the main thing I think that we need to be looking at from the Bears' perspective is the 68 sacks that we had last year with Caleb Williams. And looking at Ben Johnson and having his creative mind, I wanted to talk to you in terms of pass protection. What are some of the things that you think Ben Johnson will implement with this offense to bring that number down this year?
Okay, whether or not the offense we saw when Caleb and the Bears lit it up in that one preseason game was the Bears offense or it was the preseason offense, whatever it was, All I know is the question mark was left tackle. What they do? They went fake 39, naked right out the gate, J-Mac.
Yep.
But we're going to go hit somebody in the throat. We're going to put our offensive linemen, the ones with some red flags, in positions to go tee off with low risk, high reward. Caleb gets to cut the field in half. You throw an over to Colston Loveland. So you achieve 3-4 things in one play. And to the viewer at home, they go, 3-yard gain, there's not much there. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about, bro.
Right.
That's the kind of stuff that can set up a quarterback to feel good. That's the kind of stuff that can get a left tackle to say, oh, my God, I am protected by my coach within this scheme, even though I may not be as good as some of the guys I'm going to play against. And that's just the nature of the league. But stuff like that, J-Mac, that I really enjoy. Obviously, guys catching the football with alleyways, with hallways, football fields to run in front of them was really cool to see. It's not something that I've seen in recent memory. The catch and run portion of the game is so huge. Ben Johnson has made it a priority.
Yeah, it's going to be so big, I think, this season to protect Braxton Jones, because no matter what, right, there is this – you have so many players this year that are going to be able to get after Braxton. Trey Hendrickson has 17 and a half sacks. You got to play him. Kyle Van Noy, 12 and a half sacks. You got to play him. Jonathan Grenard, 12 sacks. Micah Parsons, 12. TJ Watt. Like, you have so many names. There's going to be this try to attack Braxton mentality this season. And I love the fact, and you got to see this up close and personal, Kyle, that there was this mentality from Ben Johnson of, we understand what our weaknesses are, and that's not an excuse for us to go out there and just say that's a weakness. We have to coach this team up to a place where our weaknesses can be viewed as strengths.
Yeah. I didn't have a ton of length in my arms. Well, really anywhere. Depends on how you ask. And I used to use my weakness as a strength. I would get into guys. I would get on guys, chest to chest with players. I just think about this offense, they're going to have to adjust and scramble a little bit. Styles make fights, and Ben Johnson understands this game better than anybody offensively. And this team is understood by Ben Johnson better than anybody. So what we're going to see is Ben Johnson's best version of this team, regardless of weakness. I mean, we're going to see an aggressive unit that's not going to play scared, in my opinion.
Yeah, Kyle, I want to talk about Caleb. Throughout the preseason, obviously, people have been taking shots at him that stem back to last year as well. But what are some of the things that you've seen, the positive things that you've seen from him this preseason that makes you optimistic that he has the potential to take the next step in this Ben Johnson offense?
Well, just the arm talent, his ability to make and I'd say that's about both of our quarterbacks, honestly, and I don't want to stir up a controversy, but we're lucky. We've got guys who can make throws off balance, off schedule. But the most beautiful throws I see from Caleb Williams are the ones where his back foot hits the ground and his 5-step drop and the ball comes out. It's rock and fire, and the ball's out. Somebody's catching it with room to run. And now we've got all these pieces on the outside. Yeah, last year they said it was the best situation for a rookie quarterback. I understand where you're coming from saying that. But this year, it's just a really good situation in terms of all the weapons, the guy who's drawing up these guys open. So it's going to fall squarely on Caleb just to get the football out on time, because I can promise you the play calls will be the right ones.
When you talk about seeing an offense that I thought Sylvie had one of the best lines, just talking about the offensive line goes forward when he first got an opportunity to look at it. How big of a difference do you think investing in the interior of this offensive line is going to be by bringing in a guy like Joe Thuney, bringing in a guy like Drew Dahlman, bringing in a guy like Jonah Jackson? How much of an impact is that going to have for the tackles on this team, who we've talked about, right? Braxton Jones, he's had some of his struggles. Darnell Wright, Dan Richard's talked about him kind of in an up and down fashion. Do you feel like that's going to be a help basically for the tackles that you have on this team and help them be better players than we've seen them be?
I know for a fact, because I saw it firsthand, that Joe Thuney is a left tackle's best friend. I saw it in Kansas City with Orlando Brown Jr., who, good friend of mine, but at times he moved like an iceberg. And, particularly later in the season when he was dealing with some health stuff. And Joe Thuney's job essentially was put your hand on the one technique, the guy inside of you, and keep your eyes on that left tackle. Mm-hmm. And he's got experience there. He's comfortable there, being the helper, being the, mama bear, as it were. Look, Drew Dahlman is a really bright center. He's going to be in the right spot more often than not. Although he's not a huge guy, big, strong guy, he moves well. He does well in combination with his guards. I think his contact balance, me and J Mac were talking about this before the show, his contact balance is elite. And I think that's going to be huge. Tying together some of these combinations, particularly carrying that over to the play action run game. Linebackers have to respect. You get the stuff from the second level, which you've heard before, Jason. And when you can get those over the middle throws, all these weapons with room to run.
Yeah, Kyle, talking about offensive line play, and you made 3 consecutive Pro Bowls from 2003 to 2015. 2013 to 2015. I'm sorry. Talk about the versatility. We've seen Ben Johnson cross training his offensive lineman. We've seen Ozzie Trapilo playing left tackle. Now we see him at right tackle. Those guys on the interior, we playing various spots throughout the season. Talk about what made you so successful in your career having that versatility.
Well, the more you can do is very important. And I would say go look at wide receiver and go look at nickel corner or a guy who can play outside. He can play on the back end. The more you can do, the better you're going to be, the better your team's going to be. I would say being versatile, particularly in the offensive line, is important. It's what protects your most important investments, and we're the reason more often than not that those receivers can get the football. You never know when Johnny's going to break a shoelace or he's going to forget his gloves and you're going to have to play. And obviously, those are euphemisms for a player getting hurt, but we don't like to say that. I remember going into 2016, Jordan Mills, bless his heart, he wasn't cutting it in training camp. And they ended up cutting him, and I had to move to right tackle. I gave up a sack in each of my first 3 weeks, but I was like, I will not be killed. You can beat me. I will not be killed. And yeah, I got a lot of chips and a lot of whack blocks from tight ends, and but I'll take it. If it's to help the team, I'll put my pride aside and try to do that. So I'm sure we will have to cross a bridge at some point this season where somebody will have to step out of their comfort zone, and that's where cool stuff happens. J Mac, you can attest to that as a teammate.
Where's your feeling coming into the season on Ben Johnson? For me, I feel like he is everything that we've wished for in a head coach and more. I've truly felt like, that he's bringing a sense of this is our standard and you cannot duck under it. If you do, openly, he said in the media, we may have to replace guys if you're not meeting what our expectation is. We may have to put other guys in. We don't know where this left tackle or whatever it is going to be. Where do you feel like, or how do you feel about Ben Johnson coming into this season as now the new head coach of the Bears?
People probably don't want to hear this, but when Dan Campbell came to Detroit, they didn't win many games. And there were a lot of guys that took the one-way ticket home because they couldn't cut it with what he was trying to get accomplished. And this year, I'm picking Dan Campbell to be the coach of the year after Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn left because I believe in culture that much. I believe in guys like Lovie Smith, and I believe in guys like Dan Campbell, and I believe in guys like John Harbaugh. There's a reason John Harbaugh's been coaching since I was in damn Little League baseball, man. Like, are you about that action or no? Like, yeah, he looks like he sells stocks on Wall Street, but they're up to some gangster shit in Baltimore, and they're up to some gangster shit in Detroit. And when I met Ben Johnson at the joint practice, he looked me in my eyes, and I was kind of like, he sunned me a little bit just with the glare, and I was like, I can only imagine if I was his guard, how on guard on the edge of my seat I would be every day. He told me this. He said, look, 2 division games to start this thing off. And he kind of shrugged at me. He goes, I don't know if we're going to be on time or in rhythm, but we're going to be physical. And they're going to remember that. And we're going to play both those teams again. So best of luck to those guys because we're sharpening our swords pretty much. Not verbatim, but he essentially said, if anything else, we're going to be physical. And I've always noticed that those teams tend to have a very high floor.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, with so many new additions to this roster, you talk about all the free agents they brought in, Kyle. You talk about the draft picks that they acquired. Who do you feel on this roster? What new addition you think going to have the biggest impact this season?
we talked about Joe Tooney already. If it's not, it is Joe Tooney. It's the biggest group of people on the team in terms of number and stature. If you lack leadership in that room, which you guys never did, you don't have a strong group. And I was never the guy that wore the captain on my chest ever. Never wore a C as a Chicago Bear. I was an infantry guy, and the guys in my room knew, like, he's not here to lead. He's here to block. Like, leave him alone. Joe Tooney's a leader, and we have that leader now in the offensive line room. And I just think that in times of chaos, even when the sky is falling around you, Joe Tooney will hold your hand and walk through the dark with you, buddy. That's the kind of guy he is.
How does that develop, Kyle? Because I think what's interesting is we got Grady Jarrett a couple weeks ago at the podium, literally going, I want y'all to understand something, calling out one of the media members and going, I wasn't brought in here to be a leader. I'm brought in here to be me. And if somebody want to follow me for being me, that's who I am. Is it just the natural guy in the room shines as we need to put the C on that guy's chest? Because you saying that right there, my mind would instantly go, Kyle Long's absolutely a guy.
Never. Coaches didn't want it. And I told my teammates, like, I don't want you to hold me to that standard because I can go a little sideways sometimes. Now, there's a method to the madness, and you played with 5'7", I'm 7'5". Like, we operate a little bit similar, but not the same.
Yeah.
But, Roberto Garza was a captain. I showed up, and this is the guy that at 36 years old with no ACLs, English is a second language. I'm just joking, Roberto. You're my guy. He's out there leading the troops every day. He's got family, wife, and kids. He's in the building before everybody. After the day's done, he's like, "Oh, we're lifting again." And you know what? When you go home, make sure you shower because we're going to O-line dinner because we do things together.
Yeah.
Because that's what's important. And a guy like Joe Tooney understands that. He was in New England. He won a Super Bowl. He was in Kansas City. He's been to the top. That stuff's important. We got that in Chicago now, which is important.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely leads to wins. And, what I wanted to ask you, Kyle, is, now you're doing a lot of great work in the media, obviously working for CBS, hosting your own podcast. How has your perspective on the game changed since your playing days? And what do you enjoy most about sharing your insights with the fans?
I would say the hardest thing, J-Mac, about being in the media is that you get further from playing every day. And I always told myself that I would never forget the feeling of 1,000 play Thursday practice, standing on the sideline, ankles swollen, fingers hurt, like, 1-0 back. I told myself I'd never forget how that feels. And I'll admit it, there are times when I slip into media mode and I forget. And I would say I try to remind myself not to forget as best I can.
That's so interesting when you're out there, because you are on the field, you're seeing these guys, you're seeing what's happening. Are there any times where you're like, man, I wish I could get one more training camp in or one more run at trying to go and win a Super Bowl?
I'll tell you what, we were down there at the joint practice the other day, Pat. They were down there in the low red, and they wanted to throw the ball. I said, I don't even need a helmet, Hoss. Just put me in there. We can, we're going to run backside. We're going 95, Bob. You want to go, Bob? Is that what you want?
Yeah.
Is that what you want?
I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it, man. Leave me on the backer, man.
I'll go backside drive. Okay.
Yeah.
We got Olin clearing out that single, and we're scoring.
Too easy.
There's no doubt about it either. That's the part I love about it. We're going in here. We're going to score.
Brother Rube. But the funny thing is now, Kyle, they don't even we can't even run that now because we don't have a fullback, man. It upsets me. You know what I'm saying? There's no, Coach talks about establishing an identity of physicality, but you don't got a fullback. You're literally not getting off the bus or the plane running because you don't. Where's our lead back? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. It's a little, bittersweet for me.
One thing that just came up about a week ago, Bengals were playing in a preseason game. Joe Burrow was out there way too long, and there was a play where he danced left, he came back right, and people were memeing Lucas Patrick. Do you remember this?
Yeah. Yes.
He put his hands up.
Yeah.
J-Mac, you know where I'm going with this. Lucas Patrick was not in the wrong there. That is the universal signal for I'm going to get this guy blocked. He doesn't see me coming. I don't want to get a penalty in case Joe
Exactly.
Burrow throws a touchdown. So for people at home laughing at Lucas Patrick, saying that he's a bad player, saying that it looked bad, this is the shit I'm talking about. When I don't forget, I can have a take like this.
Yes.
And people go, oh my God, why did we say that about Lucas Patrick?
Yeah, we call it special teams. Even on special teams, we used to call it a hit by because you don't want to put your hands. You don't want to put your hands on his back because you're gonna get a flag. Well, put your hands up, use your hips. You hit by him, you still get the block. But
my dad used to say, I hope you guys no hitting back there, and we'd have our hands up and we'd be.
Yeah.
I love it. Is there any of that for you where like you look at some of the criticism that was on the Bears O-line last year or in previous years and you say, you guys truly just don't know what you're looking at. They're not in the wrong in this moment. Caleb's got to get rid of that ball or he's got to be faster. Do you look at any of that last year and just go, yes, the offensive line wasn't great, but it's a lot on Caleb too.
There are better units in the National Football League. There were many opportunities that were squandered by this offense for various reasons last year. I would not put the blame all on Caleb. I would not put the blame all on the offensive line. A lot of my blame, I would say, is on the staff. I had issues with a lot of how things transpired and the situations they put their number one pick in. But look, it's a new year, and I like the transparency that we've seen from Rochar and the media. I would have hated it as a player. If he was breaking down my practice like Darnell Wright's practice, I would have an issue with that. But as a media member and a Bears fan, I'm like, interview that guy every week.
Right. I got one last question for you, Kyle. We appreciate your time, man. Always good to see you. I hope everybody make sure they follow Kyle. He's doing great work in the media as well.
Appreciate you guys.
One last question. What's your bold prediction this season? A lot of people have come up with record predictions, but what do you think? What is your record prediction? But also, what do you think are the major keys to success for this Bears team this season?
I think keys to success will be keeping that sack number about half of what it was last year. It'll be 34, 35. What's the league average? Let's shoot for the Mendoza line. In baseball, there's a thing called the Mendoza line as a batting average, and it's not a very high number, but if you're below it, you're out, buddy. Let's stay above the Mendoza line. I think that kills less of our drives. Pre-snap penalties need to be eliminated like the plague.
Yeah.
I need the pre-snap penalties out of here. I also need the operational penalties like the jet sweep stuff. My guy Chase Daniel covered the jet sweep debacle at the beginning of the game. It's simple things that kill drives and put you into disadvantageous situations. Nobody in the world wants to be 2nd and 15. Nobody wants to be 3rd and 17. A lot of that stuff is from self-inflicted wounds.
100%. I've said, I would say every loss that the Bears end up getting, we will probably see those pop up. And unless there's a magical fix that happens during the season, and I hope there is, because the pre-snap penalties, Caleb could be the greatest quarterback in the world.
And I would say don't balk at aggression by this staff this year. Dennis Allen is going to be aggressive, and he'll probably have to manufacture some rush because of the lack of the guys we have out there. We're going to see some chaotic shit. I love the guys on the back end. They're a lot of fun. They're like a boy band, okay? They're just back there doing their thing, a bunch of freaks, okay? And then for the offense, we're going to go for it on 4th down, okay? Some of my favorite coaches used to say, when everybody in the stadium knows we're going to run it, we're going to run it, and we're going to get it. And that's when you kind of are like, yeah, call my number, man. I want a bunch of guys that want their number called. I don't want guys with tight buttholes, okay? I want guys ready to shit.
I love it.
Maybe take that out, but
oh no, that's staying in, Kyle. That is good. We on the podcast. This is not on the radio.
I need people to take their Pepto-Bismol and get that thing rocking, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kyle Long on the podcast.
Thank you guys very much.
No, thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate you for taking the time out of your day. We're going to let Kyle go. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. For Kyle Long, for Jason McKie, it's your boy, Pat the Designer. Back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bed down. One love.